Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and happy anniversary to us! We have been active here on YouTube now for 5 years. For 5 incredible years of looking at writing, coming up with our own stories, getting to meet a whole bunch of new people, experiencing just so many great and amazing things. And also thank you so much to all of you who have joined us on this adventure, who have subscribed, who have communicated with us through YouTube, through Reddit, through Discord. It has been phenomenal to meet so many amazing novice writers out there, so many fans of various shows, books, movies, and just great people in general who have stopped on by to have pleasant chats about their experiences and their stories and what they've observed and seen. It has been an amazing 5 years. So again, thank you to all of you who have been a part of that. Thank you especially to those of you who have subscribed and who have joined us on this adventure. You guys are amazing. Now then, in order to, sorry, excuse me for that little cough right there. Now then, to celebrate this 5-year anniversary, we decided that we would do a special Q&A series right here. Now then, if you have jumped on for any of our recent live streams, you'll realize that things have not been going so well for us, and that's normally on my end right there. Yeesh. So we're trying something different out. We are going to do this Q&A session right here, and we're then going to have a live chat when we set this thing up as a premiere. So not only will I be answering questions that have been given to me previously by other novice authors in our community, but then you, dear viewer, will have the opportunity to put in your own questions, and we will be answering your questions live in the chat. That's at least hopefully what we want to have happen here. Now then, what will you be seeing besides just a Q&A? Well, to kind of spice things up a little bit, I am going to be going on the Path of Wrath. The Path of Wrath is what I call it when in Elden Ring you decide that you are going to go on just an absolute murder spree on foot. And there are some little aspects to this right here that really actually make this a challenge. One of which is this: you are not allowed to use torrent. You're not allowed to use your steed to travel from place to place. You must go on foot, as fast as you can run or as fast as you can walk. And you must kill as much as you can along your route to where you're going to go. So where am I going to be going? Well, I'm going to be going from the very beginning of the game, the first step. I'm going to travel all the way up through this castle right here, all the way across Liurnia, and I'm going to make my way on over to Ronnie's Rise, which is somewhere up here. I haven't yet gotten to that point in the game, so this is going to be, in a way, fresh territory. I mean, you've seen that I've already gone pretty far. I've explored quite a bit, but I haven't yet gotten to her story. And so, towards the end of this Q&A, you guys will get to see me experience something new. I'll be flustered and flushed and maybe get killed a couple of times, and that's something that's important to note right here. In the Path of Wrath, if you die, you must start at the very beginning. There is no resting at any of these sites of grace. You must play all the way through. You only have what resources you've got with you, no restocking, no healing beyond what kinds of potions you've got on you. So, whew, this is going to be nuts. This is going to be crazy, this is going to be long, and that should give me plenty of time to answer everyone's questions that I've got here on my little list. So, if we've got all of our rules for the Path of Wrath, I've got my questions. If you've got your own questions while watching this, please feel free to put those on in, and let us get going. And so, for my very first question, I can't remember exactly who it was who asked this, but they're like, what is this guy doing? His loadout is awful. I do apologize. I am not really that much of a gamer. This is probably the most I've ever dumped into any game since, oh, let's see here, maybe Pokemon? So, it's been a while. So if I'm not a polished gamer, I do apologize. And let me just say that preparing for this has really helped me to appreciate some of the gamers that I do enjoy watching, like Mr. Fruit, who is absolutely amazing in my opinion, always makes me laugh. I really do appreciate now, after preparing for this, just how much effort goes into these videos by YouTube gamers. So you guys are amazing. Now then, let's get to our first question right here. And this comes from French Bird, one of the people on our lovely Discord server, who asked, how do I finish writing a story? I get like 50 pages into a book or into a story, and then I just stop. What can I do? Well, I have a couple of different insights that can help with this right here. So this is a pretty common problem if you are in a similar situation as French Bird, where you're like, hey, I've got this great story idea, and I'm always excited to get into. I'm getting excited to get into it, but then when I get going, I get like so many pages on in, and then boom, I just can't bring myself to do it anymore. This is usually a matter of motivation. It's not usually that the story itself is bad, but that you run into the classic problem that 99% of us run into, and that is that the motivation just goes. It's just something that happens. And as people get inspired to work on a certain kind of project, they're so excited and pumped and ready to go, and then it, for whatever reason, just doesn't work out. But here are some strategies, here are some hints that I think can really help you out in order to reclaim that motivation and finally finish your story beyond 50 pages. My first bit of advice in my grander strategy to reclaim motivation is this: have an outline for your story. Having an outline is very, very helpful. Woo! Take that. By having an outline for your story, you know where you plan on going. And having a plan for where you're going is very, very important for maintaining any sort of motivation in the long run. Let me come back to that. Don't dare laugh at me. There you go. Haha. Ooh, hey there, buddy. So, have your outline. Know what it is that you want to do within your story, what you want to do with your characters, what are their character arcs, where is this story supposed to ultimately end up. Having an idea and a goal of where you intend to go really, really helps. Because sometimes one of the reasons why we lose motivation, it's like being a kid in a car on vacation. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah. We writers, we end up there all the time as well. So having a plan goes a long way towards remedying that. The second bit of advice I can give in this larger strategy is that you need to have workable daily writing goals. Whether that be a page, 100 words, 500 words, 1,000 words, you gotta have something in order to keep yourself going. Oof. Yeah. Like dealing with these guys right now. You gotta have something that is workable for you, so that way you can keep yourself active, working towards that end goal that you've written out in your plan, where you intend your story to go. Sorry, doggos. Believe me, it brings me no joy doing this. But yeah, having those goals really helps you to achieve your larger aim of finally finishing a story. However, here's the thing, is that I know that a lot of people already have that. They already have their writing goal. They already know how many words that they can or will do within a day in order to reach the end of their story. They already have the outlines. They know what they want to do, but they still just can't make it past those 50 pages. So what do you then do in that situation? Well, here's my last tip in this larger strategy for reclaiming your motivation, and that is this: take a break. If you get to the point where you're 50 pages in, and you're like, okay, I've lost my motivation, I can't go on any longer, stop. take a break from that story. That is absolutely fine to do. What you then do is work on like a little small fan fiction. Come up with a little short story idea. Maybe write your memoirs for the week or something. What you want to do is you want to give yourself a chance to recuperate and get over that stress of, I can't finish this story. And that's very, very important, because once you do that, you're able then to return to that story within a week. Give yourself like no more than 2 weeks worth of a break, and really I would say do it within a week. But again, coming back to it, I would definitely suggest that you come back to your story within a week. Don't give yourself much more than 2 weeks, because then, believe you me, you will lose your motivation. And that is definitely not what we want to have happen to you. So definitely come back to it. So, to summarize, what is my overall strategy to help you out right here? It is pretty simply this. Make sure that you have an outline for your entire story. Know where you want to go. Knowing the end goal is crucial to making the most of your story and having that motivation. Then have consistent writing goals. These guys like an absolute noob. And then, if you find yourself losing motivation, take a short break, but work on something else. Don't just be like, okay, well, you know, I'm taking a break, so I'm not going to write. I'm just going to completely reclaim that energy. No, if you do that, you're going to find yourself a month later on having done nothing. Make sure that you are constantly writing, sticking true to your writing goals, but sometimes give yourself a break from a story from which you've lost certain amounts of motivation. I actually have a book that I'm coming out with later this year that I've had to do that a number of times for. Why? Not because it was actually a bad story, but because I just really needed a chance to see the story through fresh eyes. And that's actually one of the best things you can claim by taking these breaks, is that you have the chance then to see your story through fresh eyes. Sometimes it's one of the things that we need. It's not that the story was ever bad, it's just that, well, you know what? Sometimes you're just so much in the thick of things that you just get tired of it. And then you come back and you're like, ah, yes, this is actually what I wanted to do with my story. Excellent. That's why having that outline is so crucial. So that way you can remind yourself what it was that you were always going to be going after. So I hope that that helps out right there. Those are 3 tips in a general strategy that you can use to reclaim that motivation when you need it in order to finish your story. And take as many breaks as you need. If you make it only up to 100 pages now and you take another break, congratulations. You've just had a 100% increase in your output. Now go and take again that week to 2 week break, and then come back stronger and better than before. Alright. Now then, let's have a look then at our next question as I go along here and get myself in trouble. Nah, no sounding the alarm from you, buddy. Even though there's all I'm around. Everyone's around me. Oh. I personally don't like having Whew. Say, even though I'm of a higher level at this point in the path of wrath, you can still get absolutely overwhelmed and owned in the game of Elden Ring. It's one of the things that should always keep you on your toes when you are playing this game. Alright, go around this barrier right here. And this gives me the chance to be like, okay then, so having a look here at our next question, which is from King in Black, another wonderful person over at our Discord channel. So their question is, what are some ways in which you can make characters feel more real? This is an absolutely excellent question. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, and really I feel like you can teach an entire college level course just on this question alone. How can you make your characters feel more real? So what I'm going to propose again is another strategy. There's plenty of things you can do. There's all different kinds of fantastic tips out there for how you can make characters feel more real. What I want to do is I want to give you a strategy that I feel is viable, something that can really help you out in order to make the most of your writing experience. Here's one of the ways in which characters actually do become real, and that is by people getting to know them. That is absolutely essential. Because, let's be honest here, there are so many different kinds of characters out there in works of fiction and in non-fiction. There's some pretty insane people out there. Aha! Getting absolutely right by these arrows. Getting out of there, getting out of there. Oof. That was rough. Alright, but, again, what we're really looking for here is getting to know characters, because there's so many individuals out there, so many different kinds of people and personalities, and to be quite frank, when people talk about, oh, we want to have characters that are relatable to the audience, well, let me, like, this is not meant to be a point of bragging at all, but I'll be very frank and honest with you. My name is now Frank and Honest. I have seen or read really almost no characters that are even like me in the slightest. There is no character that I've ever come across in the realms of fiction that I could say that right there is Lars. Even if their name is Lars. The closest I've gotten are like Walter Mitty from the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Ichigo from Bleach, Ellen from Mistborn. But the thing is this, is that... Oof, but even then, they really hold more aspects of what I might say is my personality, my character, rather than that they're actually me. So, what we need to realize at the onset of this particular strategy, of my advice right here, is this, is that you're never going to create any character who is exactly like another person. Some people might say that, and then, woohoo, hey, happy coincidence. But you will never succeed by trying to engineer a character that is exactly like someone else, that someone can identify with. You're like, oh, I'm just going to love this character so much. That's not the way that this works. So, what I recommend is this. My strategy for writing realistic, believable characters is I want you to actually start at where you do not want to end up. And that is this. I want you... Welcome to the Path of Wrath, folks. There we are. This guy's going to blow some fire. Alright, so I want you to start off with where you do not want to end up, and that is this. We do not want our characters to end up as caricatures, meaning one-dimensional and at best two-dimensional kinds of characters that are basically like, oh, this is the gamer boy or the gamer girl, or this is your quintessential jock with really no personality. Your quintessential nerd, no personality. I'm looking at you, Velma. not the original Velma. The original Velma is great. The HBO Abomination is just, oh my god, what is that? What truly is this abomination? Yeah, the thing is this, you do not want caricatures. So actually, where I want you to start with making your character more believable, more relatable, is I want you to start with a caricature. And the example that I'll give right here is in part because I've been reading through the last book in the Wax and Wayne series, The Lost Metal. One of the main characters, Wax, is basically a Sherlock Holmes type of individual. So let's start off with a Sherlock Holmes type character. Let's say that our caricature is our quintessential uber smart and slightly awkward detective. Some people will just stop right there because they feel that that is enough on which they can then base a character. I am going to tell you right now, the answer is no. That is not enough for you to base an entire character off of. That's not going to work. Let me get rid of these guys right here. Oh boy, how are you still up, buddy? Woo! Got rid of that guy. I gotta get big sword for. I've got next. See, again, this is why I really do appreciate what gamers do, where they put in a whole lot of effort, because it's difficult to talk about a couple of different things at the exact same time. Now then, start off with a caricature. Our caricature for this particular exercise is going to be our quintessential, brilliant, awkward detective, like Sherlock Holmes. But then again, it's not really like Sherlock Holmes, because actually, if you get into the nuts and bolts of what a character like Sherlock Holmes is like, there's a whole lot more to it. You want to be able to build up to that level eventually. Take it. So, start off with our caricature, uber smart, slightly awkward. But again, that is not an individual. That right there is simply a caricature of someone. So what we want is this. From there, we want to build up a personality. Let's say that our detective has some anger management issues. Woo! See? Woo! I now have to start all the way at the beginning. The Path of Wrath. Oh boy. Oh, I actually, I'll be honest right here. I've tested this out a couple of times, seeing how far I could get. And normally I make it all the way to the other end of the Lakes of Liurnia before I get absolutely obliterated. So, it's time for revenge! Oh boy. In any case, hey, you know what this means? That we just now have more time for more Q&A. Love it. Gotta love it. Alright. So, coming back to it. We have our caricature. We now need to have a personality. Let me tell you one of the things that absolutely bugs me when it comes to personalities that people decide to come up with. And this is something I see all the time from novice authors. And that is this. Oh, well, you see, my character right here is angry. Or, oh, this one bugs me so often. My character is gay. That is not a personality, unless we're going with the old Oxford definition of gay, which is happy. Okay, then fine. But no, your sexual preferences are not a personality. So again, if we want to make our brilliant detective gay, fantastic. Go ahead and do that. But that is not in of itself a personality. Instead, you can say, okay, so my detective maybe has some anger issues. Maybe they have an issue with authority figures. But you know what? They also love puns. There's someone who loves to be witty. So we've got punny, we've got witty, we've got angry, and okay, we're beginning to build something right there. There's a whole lot more that goes into personality, but you know what, maybe we'll just stop right there for the time being, because there's so much that you can think of when it comes to, well, who is a person, what all goes into an individual, and actually one of the best ways that you can bring that out is by implementing the next part of this strategy. So we've had our caricature, we've added in just some basic personality details, but now what we really want to do is we want to flesh out that personality with relationships. What you're going to do here is this. So when it comes to relationships, aha, take that. When it comes to writing these relationships, you want to think about, okay, now then, so what is our character's family life like? Who are the people in their family? Do they have siblings? But who are their parents that are involved? And then we start working from right there. Okay, so maybe when we said that our detective has an issue with authority figures, maybe it is that they don't have the best relationship with their mother or father. However, I'm just going to say, I've seen that happen, I've seen that written so many times, it's really not that interesting anymore, so maybe I would say that the problems with authority figures actually started with, like, a horrible principal, or maybe they just had a bad run-in with a cop. So that already right there is that right there is already a neat, God, that right there is already a neat, relationship that you can build up on. And actually one of the things about this particular exercise is that by figuring out these various relationships, you can then also figure out the history of your character. So we've got family, right here we've got whatever the relationship is with mother and father. Let's say that the relationship was really good with the mother and father, but then there was a relationship with like a teacher or a principal that really then soured our detective to authority figures. And maybe part of that actually came about because our detective's sister ratted them out to the principal when they did something naughty at school. So maybe they don't exactly get along best with their sibling, but maybe they actually do. Maybe it's bygones is bygones. It's all water under the bridge at this point because they're adults now. We're not going with the same dumb angst that so many stories go with. I never forgave you for this one thing that happened when we were kids or in high school. Like, already right here is you just see me spitballing these potential little stories or bits of relationship. We're already getting an idea of who our detective is. So the detective did maybe have a good relationship with mother and father, and maybe that's one of the things that then helped our detective to cultivate their wonderful intelligence, or maybe it was something that their parents taught them that allowed them to be able to implement great observational skills or great deductive skills, whatever it be. So putting our hero now into those relationships helps us to develop history and also helps us to see how that personality begins to shine through. Maybe the father, to our detective, how to just do the worst puns imaginable, dad jokes for days, and you know what? A lot of people just did not like that, and so one of the things that really actually helps make the main relationship between like the detective and one of his best friends is that the friend actually really likes puns. Not dying again to one of these guys. Okay, drink up. Look at all these puns. Get rid of you guys. And get rid of you. Woohoo! So again, for reiteration purposes, what we got going on right here, start off with a caricature of a character. Then start building just the basic bits of personality for them, and then start coming up with relationships that help us to view this personality in action. That is essential. By looking at these different relationships, we then get an idea for the history of this character. So again, just kind of spitballing right here with our detective. So our detective is brilliant and amazing, basically Sherlock Holmes. Has some anger management issues, loves puns, has some problems with authority figures due to their sister throwing them under the bus before the principal in school. But you know what? They got along really well with their parents. Their dad's the one that cultivated the horrible punniness that comes to really identify them. And one of the reasons why they get along so well with their best friend is because their friend is just one of the few people who can put up with all of those constant dad jokes. So that right there, that already gives us quite a bit to work with. And you can then develop even further those relationships and their history, and it just becomes really, really good. Now, the reason why I have you working with this particular strategy so far is because you want to get to know your character. One of the things that makes characters feel real and believable is getting to know them. And you as the author have to get to know them. You can't just birth them in your mind and then say, oh, I know them so well. Believe you me, when you go that route, that leads to you coming up with a lot of things on the fly, which can be a ton of fun, but doesn't necessarily lend itself to working well when you're trying to make sure that the story stays coherent and that you're not going to murder yourself when it comes then to trying to edit everything later on down the road. Oh boy. Yeah, I've been there, done that multiple times. So you yourself want to get to know your character. Aha. You want to get to know your character. Ooh, where did that come from? Ah. Try this again. Okay. Poor Frost. We're gonna be a degenerate. Now then, there's two other things that you will want to have in order to help you get to know your character. And this will be especially important for the times in which you will discover your character as you write. This is going to be inevitable in the writing process. You're going to come up with all different kinds of things that you want to do with your characters, but there's going to be times you're going to realize, you know what, in this particular situation, my character would probably actually do this. And you're going to kind of come up with something different. First thing that you're going to need, and this is what Nathan calls the bane and the boon. What you want is you want your characters to have two realistic parts of themselves that are just inherently who they are. This is something that they're never going to actually really ever overcome. So, for instance, for our detective character, we can have the Bane. The Bane being, he's colorblind, or they're colorblind, she's colorblind, whatever. Whoever our detective, our brilliant detective is, they just happen to be colorblind. And because they're colorblind, that's going to make their time as a detective even harder. Ooh, avoid the worst of those, but rather not. Huzzah! So, our detective's bane is that they are colorblind. That's something that no matter how much great stuff they do, they're never really going to overcome that. And that's absolutely fine. That's something that can actually draw out a lot of really interesting experiences for the character, because they might then have to work with someone to help them see color details they otherwise wouldn't. And, I mean, that's really important to be able to see color when being able to analyze certain bits of visual information, which will be essential for everything that our detective does. But then a boon that our character might then have could be really silly. It doesn't have to necessarily be super helpful to their ability as as a detective, is that they just have a really, really good sense of taste. This allows them to appreciate all of the delicious things that you can eat. And who knows, that might actually be very useful for one of your mysteries, but doesn't necessarily have to be. Aha! Yes. Now then, once you have a bane and a boon, you then want to come up with strengths and weaknesses. These are things that the character can work on, that the character can overcome in time. So this could then be, for instance, actually something like their anger management issue. What can a character do to overcome anger management problems? And then one of their strengths can then be their great observational skills. This isn't something that instantly comes to an individual. It's not normal in and of itself. Yeah. Haha. Whew. Made it through that one a little bit better than I did the last time. Progress. Ugh. I say that and I get blasted with flames. Progress. Okay. Here we go with this again. So you want to have strengths and weaknesses. So one of the weaknesses for our character is overcoming their anger management issues. Yeah, maybe we're going to play smarter. And actually use their own fortifications against them. Huzzah! Alright, come on over to me. I'm ready for you. You. So, observational skills is great strength. Anger management issues are weakness. These are things then that our detective is going to have to work to overcome through the process of the plots. Now then, the character that we've begun to build right here is completely unique and different from really, well, anyone. And again, that's the thing. We don't want to try to saddle ourselves with the nigh impossible task of creating a perfect replica of someone who is in the audience. Instead, what we want to do is we want to create the best character that we can for our story and make sure that they feel real, that they feel believable within the confines of the plot to our audience. And that's why you go through the process of crafting your character the way that you do here. So, now it's long-winded, kind of took a little while to get to that point right there, but I hope that this strategy helps you out. Start off first off with a caricature, build a very simple personality around that, use relationships to help you develop and understand more about who this person is, and that will then also help you to create a history for that character as well, and you can then use that history to then flesh out this character. Whew. Alright. Now then, coming back to this right here. Come at me, get bored. Enough of that. Alright. What about you? Okay. Time for payback, time for revenge. There's all of my runes that I want back. And then we will get back to our Q&A. path of wrath demands revenge. Alright, so we shall now continue on. Okay, so coming on to the next question, which is again coming from French Bird. How do you come up with locations and their names? So this right here is a world building question. And this is one that I have definitely seen people love to rat on recently in all different kinds of forums and on TikTok and where not else where people can go to get writing advice. So like, people just come up with the stupidest names for their stories. It just sounds so awful. If you come up with a stupid name for your story, for characters or places in your story, I refuse to read, and yada yada yada. It just goes on forever. And this is something that definitely perturbs a lot of novice authors. And sometimes they come up with names that they think are really great, and then everyone else just seems to hate them, and they just are like, I don't know exactly what I'm doing anymore, and they feel really depressed. Yeah, we don't want that to happen to you. So here is my advice to help you out with getting to know character names and locations. And what I want you to do is this. I want you to go on out there into the world and experience stuff. You may think, you know, I'm in the middle of a city, I don't really know where to go, what to do, what to find that'll be interesting. Or maybe I live out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of the woods. Everything that I see around me, I already know. It's not interesting. It's not engaging. Well, I would beg to differ. There's all different kinds of people who haven't seen those kinds of things. So go on out there. Experience the city that you live in, the forest that you live in, the desert that you live in, the mountains that you live in, the waters that you live nearby, wherever. Get to know that environment. And really look up from your phone more often. There are some amazing, incredible, beautiful things all around us in this world that we can see and that we can engage with, and that will really inspire things within your story. There is a site that, I mean, I live next to mountains, and I'm used to the way that these mountains look. There's when I look out them each day, there's nothing new about these mountains, but I have experienced things by looking up at those mountains that have actually inspired some of the visuals in my stories, whether it be like a nice rainy day or a snowy day. I'm like, wow, that is beautiful. What if I could capture that in one of my stories? And so then I write that. Also, go on vacation to different places, check different things on out, and just get experience for what the world looks like around you. And that way you can then communicate that stuff within your story. So get some real-world experience, and that's also healthy for us to have those kinds of real-world experiences that help to form help us to form what we imagine. That's really, really good. The next thing to do is this. Really spend some time to get to know your world. Take some time to just like listen to some music, kick back, and just imagine what your world looks like. Not gonna... That's... love it. Getting back some of my potions. Though at what cost? At what cost to myself? This is going to be one of the harder parts in the Path of Wrath because these guys are absolutely annoying. But take some time to imagine your world. Get to like really visualize it. Spend some time there. Think about, okay, what are the beaches look like? What are the mountains like? What are the forests like within this world? Does it even have all that? Or is it completely alien? Is it all made up of machinery? Is it Earth? Is my story just set in Earth and I just need to then like recreate a place that actually does exist? Like I want my story to take place in Moscow. Okay, then we'll take some time and envision Moscow. If you get a chance to go to Moscow, that'd be awesome. Whatever it is you gotta do, take some time to really get to envision your world, where it is, what places are in it, and then from there, when it comes to naming it, if you're using Earth, I mean, the names already exist, so yay, it makes it nice and easy for you. But when it comes to your own fantasy or science fiction world, what can you come up with? I'll be very honest, I enjoy just coming up with weird names, and then just seeing what rolls off the tongue really well, what sticks really well. That to me is a whole lot of fun. I know that for other people that doesn't exactly work. There are different kinds of like name generators out there that you can use. However, that might not always be the best route to go. Now, if you want to get really creative, if you want to get really creative, and you don't have to do this, because this does mean that you are going to be putting in more work, you can think of, okay, well, what are the different, like, languages for my particular world? You don't have to pull a Tolkien and come up with a completely different language. Trust you me, you don't have to do that. But if you do, if that's the route that you do wish to take for your story, then what I would recommend is this. Think about, okay, well, what could this language be like? Is it similar to something like Spanish, which I might know a little bit about, or in my case, more like German? Since I can speak German, I can then form a fantasy language a little bit around my knowledge of German. Having that kind of information really, really will help you out with finding the right feel for a place's name. And as you come up lightly, once again, you don't have to go really deep, but as you come up lightly with some of the details for how the languages sound, what the names of the places might sound like, what the languages might be like, and you can find names that will feel culturally and syntaxically, I don't know exactly where I'm going with that word anymore, the words that just feel right to you. You will not be able to come up with names that will satisfy everyone. And I know that there are, like, for instance, YouTubers out there who make a living off of criticizing other people's geography and the likes. Come up with what works for your story. With one of the books that I've got coming out later this year, there are definitely things that I'm doing within that story that I know are physically impossible. Now then, I do give a little bit of an explanation as to how a physically impossible planet exists, but you don't necessarily have to do that. When you watch something like Voltron, Legendary Defenders, there are planets that, by the laws of physics, cannot exist. You cannot have an eggplant-shaped planet actually exist in space. You can have asteroids that look like that, but not a planet. Why? Well, that's because of the laws of gravity and physics. But you know what? Again, you do you. It's your own story. You come up with the natural features. You get to come up with the names. You find out what works best for you, and you go with it. There is no one right way. So honestly, have some fun with it. Well, I now have some fun with this disgusting thing because these lobsters, even at higher levels, are still incredibly annoying. See? Yeah. Ooh. That's rough. And for some of the stuff here in these lakes, even at a higher level, they can still take you out unless you're being careful, which is why I'm just going to keep on stalking. Oh boy. Like I said, I'm not a gamer. I know I'm making a lot of Elden Ring players cringe with how I'm doing this, but in anyways, we're gonna move on right here. So, coming on over to yet another question right here. This right here is a question that I sadly can't remember who asked me this originally, but it was from a group of teenagers who wanted to know how they could publish their works. And that is an excellent question. Now then, I do have already 2 videos on how to publish, and I will highly recommend that you check those out. I will have links for those in the description. But to answer that question right here, first of all, what you need to have is you need to have a first draft done of your story. That is very important. There are, believe it or not, a lot of people who are like, you know what, I have an idea, I'm just going to send that idea on out there and it's going to be grand. No, you need to actually have a completed story that you can then show to people. One of the reasons being is that traditional publishers want to know that you are good on your word, that you will actually deliver. And one of the ways that they know that you will deliver is that you actually have delivered to them already a completed story. Now then, my recommendation would be that you've edited it a little bit, that you've had someone else read through it and provide excellent insight, so that way you can make it the best that it can be before handing it on over. From there, if you are going the route of traditional publishing, one of the things that you will want to make sure that you have is that you have an editor. An editor will really make things work out well for you. Beyond having an editor, you want to go and get yourself an agent. Getting an agent is very difficult. It's because they are in incredibly high demand. And whether you are trying to get published first through an editor or through a publisher, you're going to have to write a query. A book query is basically your sales pitch for the book. You are going to have to explain what the book is or what your series is, give a general overview of the story, give away some of the cool bits, but not everything. You are going to have to also describe how you want to sell your book. Who is your audience? Who are you speaking to? If you have no distinct audience to sell this book to, no publisher or editor is going to pick it up, because they are in the business of making money. So you want to have those different details already on hand within your query. And just to let you know, when it comes to writing queries, you will never write the same query twice. Every editor, every agent will require something different when it comes to you pitching them their story. If you are submitting the same query over and over and over again, you are doing it wrong. That is something that I didn't understand when I first started getting into this business, and I wish that I had. Trust you me, it's very time consuming, it's very annoying, but it is the way that you have to do things. Now then, there are those people who might not want to do traditional publishing, and that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to go the route of traditional publishing, there are plenty of other things that you can do. If you want to do self-publishing, you can go, for instance, like I do, through Amazon, which is a fairly user-friendly site. However, I will say this. Like other publishers, they want to make money. Amazon rigs the game in its favor. And so you won't necessarily make a whole lot of money unless you want to bleed your potential customers through the nose. That's just the way that it works. Down you go. Ooh, I can't actually use the map because I'm in the middle of a bunch of enemies. Dang it. Gotta get away from these enemies. And then refigure where the heck I am. But yeah, traditional publishing, there are sites like Amazon that you can use that will help you out and make the process a whole lot easier and more manageable. However, again, understand that, like, if this is something that you are trying to do to make money, still got a long ways to go. If this is something that you're trying to make money on, just, again, understand what you're kind of getting yourself into. say there's a reason why most people go the route of traditional publishing, because it is easy, because it is the best way to make money in the long run. Doing it by yourself, you're not going to really make a whole lot of money. You're going to be the one that has to foot the bill for a whole lot of things. Now that me saying that, here's something that's very important to understand. When it comes to doing self-publishing in the industry, if you are paying to have your book published, that is a problem. That is not how it should be. Instead, you will be paying for the advertising. If you are paying for your book to be published, you are being taken advantage of. That is something that a lot of people don't realize. And I've met many people who have paid upwards of like $2,000 to have their story published. And I'm like, did that come with any advertising? And they say no. So as I say, that is definitely a problem. You are supposed to get your book not necessarily published for free, because, I mean, you are going, when it comes to self-publishing, usually the agency that you are publishing with expects you to be the one to invest the money and the time in the editing process. Usually you're the one who also is footing the bill for the book's layout and its cover. Might not always be the case, but often can be. I do not... darn magical plants. Do I want revenge on magical plants? Kinda, but not really, because those plants are annoying. And no, I'm not. I shall not give in to the temptation to restock right there. I remember killing that dragon. It took me freaking forever right here. In any case, moving on. So yeah, you should not be paying for the publishing of your own book. You will most likely be responsible for footing the bill, like I said, for any editing that has to be done. You will be footing the bill for a lot of the artwork, and you will probably also be investing your own money into the advertising of your self-published book. That's just the way that things go. However, if you are paying for the actual publishing of your book, that should already be a massive red flag that you are being taken advantage of. And again, that is something that a lot of novice authors don't realize when they are getting into this business. So hopefully that little bit of advice right there helps you out a pretty long way. Oh, dang it. That darn singing. Dare I go and deal with those harpies? This is the path of wrath after all. So I'm going to say yes. Let's go deal with some bats and harpies. Yeah, yeah. Take that. Oof. Oh boy. There we go. No, maybe not. That was already a little bit of a waste right there. Okay, so let's see here. I am getting off track. I gotta go this way, so I gotta head northwards. Alright, now then, here comes our next question. This is a pretty big one, right? This is a pretty heavy one. This is, how do you write mental illness and different ethnicities and be respectful? That is an excellent question right there. And the answer is actually a fairly simple one. In how I can say it, putting into practice is another matter. And that is this. You need to do your research. You need to find out about, for instance, these mental illnesses. What do we actually know about them, and what are the proper ways in which you can portray them? For instance, and I mean, now then, I personally love the movie Split, but yes, it is not necessarily medically accurate. And so, like, that's something good to recognize. Come on, get up. There we go. So if you want to be respectful, yeah, really take your time, do your research, figure out what is good, what isn't, to reveal. Woo! Doggy. Sorry, So yeah, do your research into mental illnesses, and this is going to sound really awkward and embarrassing, maybe to you, for me to say this, but this is honestly excellent advice. Talk to people. Find out from them what they know. If you can actually manage to talk to someone who has one of these mental illnesses, be respectful about it, and you'll actually, I think, be quite pleasantly surprised to find out that they're very willing to talk to you about what they're going through, so long as you're being respectful to them. People do want to be seen, they want to be understood, and that is really, really important. So yeah, if you can ask questions go a very long way in helping you find out about mental illnesses. The same thing goes with the problems that various ethnicities encounter. People, again, they do want their stories to be heard, and it all just comes down to how respectful you are and paying attention to them, listening to them. Hold on a second here. Oh boy. Alright, sorry about that. I had to quickly go break up a cat fight. Yeesh. Okay. So, coming back to it. When it comes to understanding mental illnesses and the likes, honestly, do your research, talk to people. And the same thing goes when it comes to helping you figure out what to do on the matter of various ethnicities and different problems that groups face. Say, again, be respectful. Say, respect goes, honestly, a very, very long way. But here's something that I would definitely caution when it comes to writing for various ethnicities. One and the issues that they encounter, and that is you want to get a larger picture for what is actually going on. And this can be very uncomfortable sometimes, but you need to have the different perspectives that exist. If there is prejudice, you need to understand where that prejudice is coming from. And you do need to understand all the different sides that are involved. And that will help you to figure out the nuances of any particular situation. This is one of the reasons why we at Camille's Harem try to avoid political matters, is because it's messy, it's strange. There's all these different opinions, perspectives, and histories that are there that you need to respect. If you don't respect it, then you risk actually really alienating a number of your own readers, making yourself look a little bit like a fool, and even maybe losing a chance to do some real good in bringing awareness to a particular issue. This is why you need to do your research. You need to see all different kinds of sides and perspectives, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, because that will really, really help you out with coming to understand what's really going on here and being able to deal with sensitive matters in a way that is truly respectful and well-informed. If you just throw yourself into any particular issue thinking that you understand where the moral high ground is, you might find yourself insulting the people that you feel like you're actually standing up for. So, we want to be able to avoid that. Now then, when it comes to writing your own like fictional ethnicities and the likes, feel free to do what you want to do. I love what Brandon Sanderson does in the Stormlight Archive, because there you have different kinds of ethnicities that do not exist in our world, and yet within his story there is some very real racism, and I love how he deals with it. If you want to have a really good example of that, definitely read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. That is excellent work right there. But also, for as much flack as people give it for not going hard enough into the paint on particular issues, I really personally do believe that that Zootopia does a phenomenal job of dealing with a very tricky matter. And they do it by looking not at necessarily race, but looking at the dynamic between carnivores and herbivores living together in a modern society. And I think that that's actually really, really good, really interesting on their part. And yeah, you know what? Sure, you can go way deeper into the analogies and whatnot that are brought up through that particular line of thinking. But again, think about what your story actually needs. Zootopia isn't about trying to solve all of the various problems within the world. In fact, actually, when you look at Zootopia does not solve the matters of herbivore and carnivore prejudice. Instead, it raises awareness to the fact that those do exist, and it gives an example of how the characters within the story have overcome those prejudices for themselves and work together for a greater good. But it doesn't solve all of the problems. It just gives us a happy ending for those characters and leaves us with food for thought. If you want a story that gets way more in depth on this particular subject, you should then read or watch Beastars, which goes into even more detail about this as you look into, it's not just carnivores versus herbivores, but the different species within the carnivores and herbivores in terms of their size, their killing ability, their eating ability, their camouflage ability, their strength, their intelligence. And I should not have done that. Dang it. I'm supposed to read this for a quick place right there. The resting place of the contemptible cuckoos lost in the siege of Caria Manor. Well, that's fun. And I lost a very important vial right there for what we're about to get into. For this part of the Path of Wrath, I am mostly going to run on through, because no matter how high your level is, the handsies in here, oh boy, they will wreck. And now you're going to see why I was really angry with myself just now for using up accidentally one of my little potions when I didn't mean to, because now this leaves me just slightly weaker. You can see them right there. There they are. There they are. Hands! 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 No! Get away from me! Your hand! Yes. Yes, this is what I'm this is what I'm getting myself into here. It's gonna be hard to talk because I'm gonna be trying to survive all this time. Okay, but we will try our best here. Doesn't open from this side. Dang it. Okay. But yeah, Beastars does a phenomenal job of going even further and deeper into the different dynamics between the herbivores and carnivores, and definitely does the nuance. But one of the things that allows it to do that is the time that Beastars has in order to deal with all of these particular sensitive subject matters. If you don't have the time to dedicate to it, then you might have to reconsider, is this really, really what you want to be doing with your story? Time is most definitely a factor. Alright, dealt with that one. And here we go. Alright, may have passed that, because I do not want to deal with any more of those Nancy's. Whew. Alright, make it on over here. And is there anything I've potentially missed? Pillage the remains. How do I pillage said remains? Oh. I feel sorry for this guy who died underneath the table right there. Okay then, sorry. I've gotten really distracted because this is one of the more difficult parts of the game. Trying to make it. Now then, well, let's have a look at another question right here. So I'm riding with friends and things aren't going very well. Please send help. Okay then, so I'm going to give you my honest opinion right here. If you are riding with a friend or friends, I really do hope that you are doing it only for the fun of it. You should not be riding with friends in the hopes of getting a story that will go on out there that's going to be published and seen by the rest of the world. My reasoning for this is because publishing with friends is so very difficult. For all of you who have played Dungeons & Dragons, you will realize that, yeah, this happens all the time, where you try to get everyone's schedules aligned, and it just does not work. Yikes. Too many guys here, too many guys here. Yeah, so trying to align schedules with friends can get very difficult, but another problem is that it's not just simply aligning the different schedules. It's also aligning visions for the story. This is something that is difficult in any sort of group project. I mean, how many times has it happened in school where you've got a group project that you've got to do, and then in the end, just one person ends up doing all of it right here? It's because that person's vision just kind of wins out over everyone else's. When you're writing with a friend or with friends, it's very easy for that to happen as well. If you have the goal of making this into like an actual webtoon, or into a video series, or into a book series, or anything like that, you need to have unity of vision, you need to have unity of schedule, you need to figure out who's going to tackle what parts of the story, and you need to stick to it. If you can't do that, if you honestly can't do that, then your story is just going to start falling apart. And all of the joy that you had in putting that story together is not going to be there anymore. And I'm saying this not to be rude or mean, but because that is honestly what you're going to be dealing with. Say, me and Camille's Harem, like, we've actually worked together in the past to write our own stories before. But we've never actually ever finished any of them. And it's a good thing that we never intended for any of those stories to go out there into the public and become some great grandiose thing. because yeah, those stories just never ever were completed. And you know what? That's fine. If you are just writing as friends for the sake of being friends and having fun, you know what? You're going to do well. But if there's a specific goal in mind for, like, oh yeah, we're going to get famous with this particular story, I'm sorry, that's just not the way that it's going to work out. So, again, that's my caution when it comes to writing with friends, working together with friends. If you want to incorporate your friends in a story that you are writing on your own, that's a completely different matter, and you can have a whole lot of fun with that. Where they give you great writing advice and insight and the likes, that can be really, really good. But again, it's trying to do the story just with them. Take that. Grab up your thing as you sort of sliding down the stairs. So yeah, that's my advice on dealing with writing with friends. So there you got it. All right then. And now then, from Animatic Dream, a person who just recently joined us on this crazy adventure that we call writing, thank you Animatic Dream, had a question for me. What do I think about the Deltarune time loop theory? Here is my personal take on it right here. I personally see Deltarune more as an example of... Get beef right here because I see a dragon over there. Yikes. I personally am of the opinion that Deltarune is more an example of a multiverse story rather than a matter of time loops. And my reasoning for that is just how different Deltarune and Undertale are when it comes to their stories, and also to their settings and everything else like that. Now then, I understand that some people are like, oh, it's the butterfly effect. Now then, my ultimate reasoning for this is what Toby has said, that Deltarune is neither a sequel nor a prequel to Undertale, but an entirely different story. However, when we look at what is in Deltarune, it's very clear that there are some very big similarities between the two of them. And that's, yeah, that's important, I think, to acknowledge and to know. And you can definitely have a look at some of the other videos that I've done about this. Whoop, okay. This dragon is coming directly for me now. So, we're in this. Ooh, what was that? That was a massive sword. Oh boy. I have no idea what just happened there. Whew. Okay. So, survived a dragon, I guess? Yee. Oh, my heart's a-pounding. My heart's a-pounding right there. Okay, then. Well, let's let's get back out to what I was talking about here. Okay, so, difference between Undertale and Deltarune. For me, again, it all comes down to... Oh boy, Do I get to avoid the doggos, or do I have to kill the doggos? Ronnie's rise. Okay. So when it comes to Undertale and Deltarune, it really is, I think, if we take Toby at his words, they are separate worlds. However, they are worlds that are indeed connected by characters who we know from Undertale have the ability to kind of break the rules of time and space. Characters like Sans and Gaster. And so, understanding that helps us to already see where the story could go. And then once again, I've already kind of broken this down in detail in other videos. So I will make sure to link those in this video description. But I think that there's really some great merit in having the two separate. Undertale, by telling the story of various timelines, really gets you to focus in on the matter of that you are the player in this story, and you are being rewarded for how you treat the game. If you're just trying to slaughter your way on through, you end up with a certain ending. If you go the pacifist route, you get another ending, and you can even have various endings in between depending on how you play. And that is the gamer experience, is rewarding you, and it uses the mechanics of a game and mixes it with time travel to help explain how you can keep on coming back, because normally, yeah, that's not the way that any sort of reality would actually work. So I think that was a very brilliant move on Toby's part. But I definitely see them as separate. We're going to see... Ooh, I'm not going to rest right here. I'm just going to activate this grace, as we're still on the path of wrath. And let me come up here, see what we got. So actually, that takes me to the end of the questions that I was given right here. Wow. And already kind of coming over to the end of where I actually had hoped to get to. So that's kind of cool. Now then, to kind of answer maybe some of the unspoken questions, for those of you who have come across Camille's Harem just very recently and have seen all of these videos and stuff on the matter of romance, you might be wondering, okay, so why is it then that we're getting all of these videos about romance, and then suddenly we get this Path of Wrath nonsense and everything else that comes with it? Well, that is because it's been my goal. Sorry, Ronnie, I'm going to completely wreck your room right here. I'm wondering what the heck this guy's doing. The reasoning for that is because, hey, it's the month of Valentine's, everyone's focusing more on romance, and there is so much stuff that can and should be said when it comes to the world, when it comes to writing romance within fiction, because there's so much bad toxic romance that's written out there that can be done absolutely differently. And so we've been trying to highlight the good and the bad in order to help novice authors really write romance better, because romance might be one of the hardest things to write well in any given story. And as kind of a preview for something I've been working on, I am working on a special project about romancing this beautiful blue lady right here. So we'll end right here with me finally encountering Ronnie the Witch, and we will end our Q&A right here. So let's have a talk.
Oh, again we cross paths. I believe I said my name was Rena when last we met. It pleaseth me to see Torrent hale and hearty, but tarnished. What business hast thou here? I have no memory of inking thee an invitation.
Well, me personally, right here, I'm gonna be all like, because you gave me the wonderful steed, which I haven't used at all in the Path of Wrath, and a beautiful blue lady. Me likes, but I will have to go with what the game is giving right here. You must be Ronnie the Witch, behind the Knight of the Black Knives.
I see. Quite the sleuth, aren't we? Indeed, I am the witch, Ronnie. I stole a fragment of the Rune of Death, and used it to forge the god-slaying Black Knives through fearsome rite. I did it all. But sadly for thee, The curse mark thou seekest is not to be found here. I have slain the body I was born into and cast it away. And it is upon that flesh the curse mark is carved. And why should I reveal that to thee? I performed the act not to bury the past, nor in shame of the deed, but all the same, thy begging compels me not a jot. The curse mark thou seekest is not here. That is all I will say. Now, be gone.
Ah, yes. Very cold introduction for the character that I wish to woo within this game. Oh well, let's see if there's anything else to be said.
The curse mark thou seekest is not here. That is all I will say. Now.
Alright, I've got some work to do in order to fix this awkward situation between me and the blue ladies, so I will get around to that. Hopefully you've enjoyed this crazy round of Q&A right here. We've got more videos on the way that I hope that you will check out, and also more writing advice that you can check out here on our channel and on our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. And we have writing exercises for all you novice authors to be found over at our Pinterest page. Links for all that and more are in the description. If you stuck around this long with this particular Q&A, thank you so much. Sorry if my playing of Elden Ring has given you a nervous heart attack, because I'm not that great of a gamer, but I do have fun doing this. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put them into the comments for this particular video, since we're now at the end, and we'll be happy to read through them and answer them. And yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So again, thank you for joining us on this amazing adventure that we call writing. Thank you for being with us here for 5 amazing years. We're looking to another 5 more incredible years and more in the future to come. So until the next video, y'all, tschüss.